What's up everyone, Darcblade here bringing you a video celebrating Uncharted 3's first birthday. It's been a year now since the game was released. It was released on November the 1st in North America and November the 2nd in the EU. It really sucks that the EU gets their games later than the Americans, but that is because of the way the EU markets games, so I guess we have to live with it. Luckily, when Uncharted 3 did come out though, I was able to get my copy on the 1st of November, despite living in the EU. This is quite lucky. This normally happens in the EU when you actually pre-order games, so at the end of the day it worked out, so I wasn't too disappointed. Anyway, like I said, it's been a year now since Uncharted 3 was released, and the big question is, are you still playing it? I mean, there are a lot of people still playing the multiplayer. It's found its community to keep it going, and it still is going strong in my opinion. I don't think people would still be playing Uncharted 3 if it wasn't for the multiplayer. I mean, the single player is great, and in my opinion still the best part of the game, but the longevity of the single player is nothing compared to the multiplayer. Now, the single player hasn't received too many changes, really any that I can think of, any major changes anyway, since the initial release of Uncharted 3. But Uncharted 3's multiplayer has gone through tons of changes. It's had 15 patches applied to it over the course of the year, each slightly editing the experience we get with the multiplayer. I only really remember the big changes coming from about patch 1.02 that added various gameplay, technical and user interface changes. Patch 1.02 added things like being able to throw a grenade whilst you're scoped in. They fixed the blind fire so it wouldn't actually hit anyone above a certain vertical level. At this time in the multiplayer's lifespan, the Cal 7 was really being overused, and this fix basically solved that. It also fixed medal streaks from resetting after a host migration. Patch 1.03 added things like increasing the amount of medals needed for the creepy crawler and quick boom kickbacks. A fix for the foul SS was also introduced, increasing the number of bullets needed to kill someone, because the foul SS was really overpowered at this point in the game's lifespan. Patch 1.04 prepared us for the new DLC that was going to be released, introducing a ton of new characters, for example all the donut characters. Patch 1.05 paved the way for new DLC 2. It also added an integrated bandwidth testing system that allowed the person with the best connection to be the host for the match. Patch 1.06 made various gameplay changes. It made it so that you were able to constantly earn return to sender and hot potato medals now. It also made it that you weren't able to throw grenades while carrying an object. It also made it that you were able to melee whilst automatically reloading your gun. Patch 1.07, which was probably the smallest patch Naughty Dog released, was a fix for the DLC maps that were recently released. Patch 1.08 and 1.09 were released simultaneously, so this brought a ton of changes and fixes to the game. 1.08 fixed the cloak booster. Basically, at level 3 you're supposed to make no sound, and you were still making sound when you moved. This finally fixed it. It also increased the default ammo for the Tower Sniper, and it fixed an issue where players were able to hold a high five pose and avoid being grabbed by a choker in the cooperative mode. Patch 1.09 saw some very important gameplay changes. It reduced the stopping power of the Gmile by 50%. At this point in the Uncharted 3's multiplayer lifespan, the Gmile was dominating matches, and you saw a distinct lack of variety in the guns that people were using. This change stopped that and ensured that other people would consider using other guns over the Gmile. The patch also introduced other changes, such as increasing the riot shield's health by 18%, reducing the auto-aim on the double-barrel shotgun whilst you're jumping. And another big one is that it tightened the bullet spread for the AK-47 when firing by 10%, making the gun a little bit easier to control and more accurate. 1.11 introduced new game modes. It introduced the lab mode, as well as the return of the elimination mode. Add to that, you were able to customize your custom games a lot more through the advanced settings. They also reduced the distance needed for the long ranger medal from 70 meters to 50 meters. The other big thing that came with patch 1.11 is the added versions of the Airstrip and London Underground maps with no introduction. Patch 1.12 was another small patch. It didn't actually change or add a lot. The biggest change that came with patch 1.12 is that it fixed an issue where maps were appearing mirrored, so you would go into a map and everything would be back to front. This was fixed with 1.12. It's a shame actually, because this mirrored map bug could have been a potential legitimate option for Naughty Dog to implement into their games, but I guess this wasn't the case. Now came patch 1.13, a huge, enormous patch that changed Uncharted 3's multiplayer. Basically, it added new things like the new tournament mode, it added 2 new legacy modes, It added a ton of new customization options for the characters. Basically, this was the patch that allowed all the characters to equip new head items and that. It added the new experimental block mesh maps. It added new trophies. I think there were 50 overall that were added with patch 1.13. A host of new gameplay changes came with patch 1.13 too. They increased the recoil of the Gmal, they increased the fire rate of the Tau sniper pistol, they reduced the blind fire accuracy of the M9 by 10%. Basically, they added a lot of things that made the guns a little bit more even, shall we say. Patch 1.13 really was the biggest patch that Naughty Dog had implemented into Uncharted 3's multiplayer yet. Thanks to the new content and gameplay changes they added with this patch, I really do feel it helped the multiplayer's lifespan by making things seem fresh and new. Following the success of patch 1.13, patch 1.14 was soon introduced to fix a few minor bugs. It was another small patch. Basically, it fixed a voiceover issue with the Jin and Guerrero voiceovers, but the biggest thing that came with patch 1.14 is that it started to roll out the additional content, basically the hats that could be bought for the characters from the PSN store. It also saw the introduction of the block mesh maps. Although they had been mentioned in patch 1.13, they were really only implemented in patch 1.14. And that brings us pretty much up to date with patch 1.15. Patch 1.15 added classic mode and fixed the drop rates of treasures, things like that, but you should already know about 1.15 as it's only just been released. So that is pretty much it. That is the year of Uncharted 3's patches. There's been a lot of changes that have come and gone. Basically, they have tried to fix all the weapons so they're balanced, but no matter what game you have, there will always be some weapons, some boosters, some kickbacks, kill streaks, whatever game you play, there will always be something that is more overpowered than the other options in the game. I do congratulate Uncharted 3's multiplayer for lasting as long as it has. Naughty Dog obviously care about their multiplayer, trying to entice players to keep on playing. And for the most part, I think it has worked. I think Naughty Dog have built up a great Uncharted 3 multiplayer community. Now they just have to keep it going. I would love to hear what patch you think changed the game the most. I would also love to hear about when you actually started playing Uncharted 3. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this yearly recap for Uncharted 3's multiplayer. Can't believe it's been a year since I started making videos about the game. Anyway, it's been a great year. Let's hope for another one. I've been Darcblade, wishing Uncharted 3 a very happy first birthday.